That was the first words out of Kody Brown's mouth when he appeared before the judge, his voice trembling, eyes raging with anger. And with that, the courtroom burst into stunned silence. This wasn't a rumor in the tabloids. This wasn't some Hollywood-style drama on the cover of a magazine. This was real. In a surprising and deeply emotional twist, Kody Brown, the once proud patriarch of TLC's Sister Wives, was suing his first wife, Meri Brown. The charges: emotional defamation and financial exploitation, following the release of her best-selling memoir. The book, raw and honest, had exposed decades of silent suffering, from Meri's loneliness to Kody's favoritism, abandonment, and spiritual gaslighting. And Kody? He said it went too far. I never put a hand on her. I was aloof, yes, but not cruel. She's colored me as a villain for money. Sitting next to him was Robin, shaking, holding a tissue in one hand and his arm in the other. Her face told it all: betrayal, fright, and mute rage. Kody insisted the book destroyed what remained of his reputation. And worse, his relationship with his kids. They won't talk to me. My sons call me a coward. My daughters tell me I deserve it. All because of that book. The judge instructed him to catch his breath, to relax. But relaxation was not an option. The air within the courtroom was as tense as static, electric and waiting to burst. And then, Meri took the stand. Meri stood behind the witness stand, her voice low but unshaken, as her attorney coaxed the microphone a little closer. The courtroom, still in shock from Kody's passionate attacks, now stood paralyzed in silent stillness, the sort of stillness commanded only by the truth. I did not write that book to dismantle Kody, she said again, this time more slowly. I wrote it because for 20 years I vanished in a marriage that never had room for me. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't even a friend. I was a fixture. A shadow. Her attorney gave her a dog-eared edition of her own memoir. She held it to her as a lifeline, reading an underlined chapter. Her voice cracked as she started to read. But she didn't quit. Nights when I lay awake until 3 a.m., waiting for him to knock on my door, just to discuss. I ceased to request love. I'd have taken conversation, for recognition, for something that made me feel like a human being again. Tears brimmed over in the eyes of a number of women in the gallery, Christine and Janelle among them. Even the court stenographer ceased her typing for a second. Meri glanced up momentarily, still not meeting Kody's eyes, and went on. When we first began this family, I was a believer. I believed in him, but year after year after year, I didn't hear I love you anymore. I didn't feel seen. And then, I didn't exist anymore. She talked of Robin, not with envy, but with acuteness. He fell in love with Robin. That's not the betrayal. The betrayal was acting like he hadn't already fallen out of love with me, way before she ever came around. He kept me for the cameras, for the image. But behind closed doors he was gone. Kody shifted uncomfortably in his seat, jaw clamped tightly. Robin took his hand, but he didn't react. Meri looked to the judge, her voice now shaking with anguish. Not from fear, but from recalling the years of silent abandonment. This suit is not about his reputation. It's about control. He was unable to silence me within our marriage, so he's attempting to do it in court. The judge had only one question for Meri. Did she intentionally make anything up in her book to damage Kody Brown's reputation? Her response was straightforward. No, I did tell the truth, and the truth happens to hurt. She descended from the stand. For the first time in years, perhaps ever, she seemed free. Kody strikes back with cold, calculated evidence. The air was electric with tension as Meri resumed her seat. For an instant, it was as if no one could utter a word. Even Kody remained silent, jaw clenched, eyes cast down, chest pumping. But then his attorney, a well-dressed man with the voice of honed steel, rose and strode to the middle of the courtroom. Your Honor, he started, with respect for Miss Brown's feelings. We are standing here today to resolve a very tangible, quantifiable injury. He faced the gallery, waving a stack of papers so thick they needed to be clipped 3 times. Meri Brown's memoir, The Lost Wife, has raked in over $120,000 in the first 4 months of life since release. The money is made on book sales, a podcast tour, exclusive interviews, and 2 documentary appearances in the near future, all revolving around one topic. Kody Brown is the bad guy. The sentences floated in the air like smoke. He placed before the judge a binder of royalty statements, tax returns, and appearance contracts. Then he produced a printout, a quotation from Meri's Instagram page, posted merely 2 weeks after the book came out. It's time the world hears my side. I stayed silent for too long. And now, I'm standing in my truth, no matter who it upsets. The attorney looked directly at Meri, then back to the court. This isn't just a story, it's a strategy. A coordinated, monetized campaign built on half-truths and dramatic flair, designed to destroy Mr. Brown's character and public image. Meri's lawyer started to object, but the judge allowed the presentation to continue, as long as evidence remained factual. Then came the part no one saw coming. The secret recording. Here is our one last piece of evidence, announced Kody's attorney. It's a private recording, legally purchased, from a 2020 family therapy session, which was taped at the request of everyone involved. He removed a flash drive and plugged it into the court monitor. The judge sanctioned it after confirming the chain of custody. The audio was playing. It was the voice of Meri. Stopped visiting my room. Stopped speaking with me. He treats me as if I'm deceased until the camera is on. He doesn't desire a wife. He desires a narrative. Another line followed, one that was going to strike like a bullet. Kody's a narcissist, and he uses religion as a cover to justify his abandonment. I understand what emotional abuse feels like now. I experienced it for 20 years. The gallery gasped. Even Christine, quietly sitting in the rear, covered her mouth. Kody winced, not only from the words, but from the heavy toll of how they seemed to reverberate in a courtroom full of strangers, attorneys, and former relatives. The profit trail. Once the recording was complete, Kody's attorney made his closing statement for the day. We are not denying Miss Brown's pain. We're not even denying her right to feel it. But we are saying, simply and legally, that what she did with that pain was damaging, lucrative, and deliberate. He moved towards the jury box. Although this was a civil trial with no jury, and he gestured as if he was begging to the country, when someone's pain is used as their product, when a book commodifies family dysfunction and makes it public entertainment, and money mounts up, we are no longer merely discussing healing. We are discussing defamation, character assassination, and yes, revenge. Kody looked up at Meri. Then for the first time his eyes didn't show rage. They showed heartbreak, pain, and maybe, just maybe, guilt. But the damage had been done. Meri strikes back, with text just when Kody's legal team looked smug and victorious. Meri's attorney stood up calmly and said, "We'd like to respond." She handed the judge another binder. This one slimmer, but just as deadly. Inside there were dozens of text messages, stretching over 5 years. From Kody to Meri, from Meri to radio silence. She read one out loud. "Meri, can we talk tonight? Just for a few minutes? Kody, don't push it. I have other priorities." Another Meri. "I miss how things used to be. Kody, you're living in a fantasy. Grow up." The messages were brief, chill, curt, and authentic. One of Kody's messages simply stated, "I signed up to be a stay-at-home wife, not babysit a pity party. You wanted this lifestyle, now deal with it." The courtroom reeled from the punch, as if Meri's words had punched harder than any check or contract. The voicemail that broke the court. The last blow came in the form of a voicemail. Meri left in the pandemic. The judge permitted it to be played after ensuring that it was made on her personal phone. "Hello? I know we're all trapped at home, but I miss you. I haven't seen you in nearly a month. You instructed me to wait, to be patient. But, am I still your wife? I feel like a stranger in my own home. Please return my call, okay? I need to know you still notice me." Half the courtroom was in tears by the time she finished the voicemail. Even Robin, who had been steadfast all morning, sat now frozen, her mascara running. Meri didn't break down. She simply closed her eyes and took a breath. She had already shed all the tears there were. Kody's face. The moment of realization when the judge requested a recess. Kody remained seated, slumped forward, shoulders as if something inside him had been shattered by the weight of the previous hour. His attorney whispered, "We still have grounds for appeal." But Kody did not respond. He merely looked at the bench where Meri had addressed the court, not in hatred, not in anger, but with the kind of silent, defeated sorrow that comes when a person knows they weren't a victim, but a perpetrator. The courtroom cleared slowly. Cameras popped outside. The world was already discussing, but inside the war wasn't legal anymore. It was personal. When the courtroom reconvened after recess, a change had been felt. The fire was gone. The arguments, the documents, and recordings, all now sat, like cold ash, in the air. Kody looked drained. His attorney shuffled papers but didn't speak. Robin's eyes were red. Christine and Janelle had quietly left the room during the break, unable to watch any more. Meri, on the other hand, remained quiet, not triumphant, not resentful, simply quiet, like a woman who had already gotten everything she could possibly say out of her system. The judge, a white-haired man in his middle years with a deliberate voice, came back onto the bench and leaned forward a bit, steepling his fingers. He didn't speak from a piece of paper. He didn't glance at the attorneys. He fixed his eyes on Kody and Meri. I've been a judge for 22 years. I've seen business partners fight, siblings battle over wills, divorces filled with so much anger, the truth got lost under layers of blame. But this case is different. He glanced down at a yellow legal pad in front of him, then back up. This is not about defamation. It's not even about money. It's about open wounds, emotional wounds, that have never been closed. And now they've brought them here, to my courtroom. Kody shifted uncomfortably in his chair, swallowing hard. Mr. Brown, I've read your complaints. I think you've been damaged, embarrassed even, but not by illegal conduct. Miss Brown's autobiography is a personal work, painful to be sure, but shielded. There is no legal ground for monetary damages. There is no breach of contract, no libel, no actionable malice. He paused, allowing it to sink in. Your motion for damages is denied. Gasps circulated through the courtroom. Kody closed his eyes. The judge went on. What I'm going to tell you is this. Both of you were hurt very badly by a marriage that was broken years before this trial ever started. You remain together physically, but emotionally, you've been strangers for years. This courtroom is not going to repair that. But perhaps now, since the truth has finally been uttered out loud, you both can start to heal. Meri exhaled slowly. Not relief, but release. The judge glanced down at the documents, then up a last time. Case dismissed. Court is adjourned. He pounded the gavel, and in an instant it was finished. But what came next wasn't legal. It was personal. Final words. The face-to-face. As everyone rose to exit, Meri started gathering her belongings, quietly, systematically. Kody was standing on the other side of the room, frozen. People walked around him on either side, but he did not notice. His gaze was on her. Then, for the first time in a few hours, perhaps decades, he moved toward her. They stood inches apart, facing each other. The room was all but empty now. The lawyers stepped aside. The judge had departed. No camera crew, no confessionals, no TLC drama, just them. Kody spoke softly. You really meant everything? Meri nodded, staring straight into his eyes. Every word. There was a silent moment. Kody's eyes were unfocused. Then I guess I never really knew how much I hurt you. You didn't want to know, Meri said quietly. You just wanted it quiet. Kody dropped his head. He didn't dispute. He didn't defend. I was trying to protect the family, protect the show, protect yourself. Meri interjected. He nodded slowly. He appeared older, not in years, but in spirit. I hope someday the kids forgive me, he said. They may, she said, but only after you stop acting like it was you who were betrayed. Outside the courthouse, the pack of reporters had assembled. But Meri didn't pause to make a statement. She strode right through the flash of cameras, her head held high. She didn't require a microphone. She had already voiced everything that had been important, not only to the court, but also to herself. Her silence today was not weakness. It was peace. A few blocks away, alone on a park bench, book in her hand, not to read, but to recall. The memoir that ushered in this entire legal maelstrom was never intended to kill Kody. It was her survival story. A story of loving someone who had ceased to love her back years ago. A story of being erased, and learning to rewrite herself. In a brief interview several days later, out of the courtroom, out of the spotlight, Meri was posed one last question. Do you think you still love him? She smiled softly, not bitterly, not with regret, only with honesty. I think I loved a part of him that never existed. And I clung to that part for too long because it hurt less than releasing it. But do I still love that version? She hesitated. Yes, always will. But I love myself more now. That quote went viral. Not because it was salacious, but because it rang true. And people felt it. Kody's last scene. In the meantime, Kody went home, if it could still be called that. Robin waited, visibly shaken. She hadn't spoken much throughout the trial, but now she did try. I guess maybe, we didn't realize how much she was suffering. Kody sat silently. He gazed out the window. They all left, he finally whispered. Christine, Janelle, and now Meri's truly gone. Robin placed a hand on his shoulder. You drove them away. You tried to dictate the narrative, but they found their voices. He turned, hot with anger. I was the one keeping everything together. No, Kody, she replied. You were clinging to the image, not the family. He didn't reply. There was nothing left to defend, nothing left to explain, because the truth had already been spoken, not just in the courtroom, but in the silence that followed. Weeks afterward, Meri visited the same courthouse, not for a lawsuit, but for something symbolic. She regained her maiden name on official documents. No fanfare, no press, just one woman, emerging from a shadow that had engulfed her for decades. She walked by the courtroom, where she used to sit across from the man she once referred to as her husband. She didn't bat an eye. There was no bitterness, no revenge, just quiet strength. Her voice had been muffled in that marriage, but now she found it echoing through the pages of her book, through the tears of her fans, and through the hearts of women who finally saw their own story in hers. The court may have thrown the case out, but Meri won something far greater than any verdict could provide. She won herself back.